What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for February 3rd, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Monday edition of the podcast, an Eagles Super Bowl week Monday. Yes, we are less than a week from the Super Bowl. The games are about to begin. The Eagles and Chiefs are both in New Orleans. Media days today. I'll get more on that in a minute. But first, some housekeeping before we get started. Be sure to buy your Girl Scout cookies from Ella. All the information you need is in the description. She's met her goal, but let's blow it out of the water. Go buy the cookies. You're probably out and need more at this point anyway, so order them from Ella. And if you're local and you want a delivery option, hit me up and see if we can work something out. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, at PhillyJimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Continue to spread the word as we try to continue to outsmart the algorithm. Let's do it. Also, time is running out. Squares are filling up for the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame block pool fundraiser. So if you want any information on that, it is the first thing in the description. But time is running out. Squares are filling up fast. If you have any questions, hit me up and I will be glad to answer them. And then check out our friends at the On Pattison newsletter. Great things over there. Great Philly sports coverage. We're featured in there a couple times a week. Good guys over there. So subscribe to them. Have it delivered right to your inbox. All right, let's start with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. In honor of Groundhog's Day, I asked you, which Philly sports moment would you want to live over and over again? Not surprisingly that this came out on top, but the total was somewhat surprising. 50% went with Super Bowl 52. Everything else was split between either the Sixers run or the Phillies 08 World Series run. Those were the three things that really came through. So thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. And if you didn't get a chance to get it in yesterday, feel free to get your voice heard today. And let me know, which Philly sports moment do you want to live over and over again in honor of Groundhog Day? All right, so I'm glad I waited. Didn't fall for it. Maybe I'm maturing as a Sixers fan or a person or what. I said if they play well against the Nuggets and the Celtics, winning at least one of them, I'd be back on. I told Lucy to get the football ready. Well, that football is back in the dark corners of the shed. I'm glad I didn't fall for it. 118-110, the Sixers lost. Now, on the surface, if you didn't watch the game, you're probably like, yeah, they hung close. They covered the 11-point spread. They blew a 26-point lead. They led by 14 heading into the fourth quarter. That's why I wanted to get through this weekend. So I will not be on the Sixers bandwagon that they're going to turn it around. At this point, I don't even know where to begin. All kinds of trades happening this weekend. The biggest one was Lucha for AD. Man, I don't know what the Sixers are going to do, if they're even going to do anything. I mean, I don't know if there's anything that's going to help them be competitive this year other than a healthy Joe and a healthy Paul George, which I think both of those ships have sailed. But just a disappointing loss yesterday. You're up 26 points, 14 going into the fourth quarter, and you can't close it out. And I know they didn't have their two of their best two of the big three, but still, oof. I'm glad I waited. Lucy, go put that football out in the shed. Flyers did not fare much better. They have now been shut out 3 straight games, losing to the Avalanche 2-0 yesterday. Obviously, they were shorthanded as they try to figure out the moves and getting people in after the trade. But, man, this is just a stark reminder that this is a rebuilding team. To his credit, Samuel Harrison was not bad. They just could not get any shots to fall or any shots to go in. It just was brutal, but it's a slow process, Flyers fans. It's a slow process. The best thing we can hope for is anything that gives us hope for the future, which I think we have. It's just they're so hot and cold that when they're hot, you get super excited, and then when they go cold, it's like, oh yeah, this is a rebuilding team. But they're back in action tomorrow against the Utah Hockey Club out in Utah. Be sure to check out my boys over at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Great things happening with their Sports Fan Network. Check it out. Good content, good guys, and that's available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. And it's Super Bowl week. Go to Philly Goat. They've been named by the Inquirer one of the top places to get your Philly gear. So go to Philly Goat. Check out their wide selection, literally head to toe. Hats, shirts, hoodies, pants, shoes, stickers for the back of your car, your kid's water bottle, coolers, beer funnels, koozies. What else? Coffee. You can basically get anything you want minus like a nice juicy steak at Philly Goat. So go to phillygoat.com. Use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. All right, the Eagles are in New Orleans, and I saw a couple just weird stats yesterday, but the first one, this was their first plane trip since November 24th when they went out to L.A. for the Rams. So that's a pretty telling sign that, one, the schedule, they were local, they were hopping on buses late in the season, but you got the number one seed, and that's why you played and continued, or not the number one seed, but you were able to get the 2 seed and got the home playoff games, and that's why you play all season for. So that was an awesome stat. And then I saw, and to put into context just how good of a postseason that Nolan Smith is having, Brandon Graham is the Eagles' all-time leader in postseason sacks with 5.5. Nolan Smith is second with 4.5, and I believe he had a half coming in. I'm not sure the exact sort of way that went, but he's having a hell of a postseason and looks to continue that on Sunday against Patrick Mahomes. There was not a lot of news coming out of either camp yesterday just because it was a travel day. Things are going to definitely start ramping up. Tonight is Super Bowl opening night. The Eagles' media availability is between 7 and 8. I'll definitely be watching that and keep taking notes and whatever, and the ridiculousness that is Super Bowl media day. But let the games begin. It's Super Bowl week, folks, which got me thinking. I kind of alluded to this a little bit the other day, but now that it's here, I need to figure out what I'm doing for the game. Ordinarily, if the Eagles weren't in the Super Bowl, I wouldn't care one way or the other. Be like, yeah, if you want to go to a party, let's go to a party. We can leave, whatever. But since the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, I'm not very big, and I know this is ironic considering I have season tickets and watch home games with 70,000 people. I don't really like being around a lot of people watching the games. We were invited to a Super Bowl party. We're trying to figure out if we're going to go or not. I'm kind of leaving it up to my wife, but I really could go either way because the thought of somebody else taking care of all the food and everything like that, that's appealing to me. However, I did tell my wife, like, I'm not leaving early. I told her she was going to drive, especially if they win, if I'm taking shots of champagne and whatever. But my biggest concern is when you go to, and these are friends that the kids are friends with through school, so you never know who people like that are inviting. Is it just going to be the school friends? Are they going to have friends from outside the school thing? So there's so many dynamics there. And I don't want to be the one to tell somebody to shut up in somebody else's house. But I will if I have to. So it's kind of one of those things where we're torn. So my question to you today is, and I really wouldn't tell somebody to shut up in their own house. I might, though. Anyway, question of the day for you is, are you going to a Super Bowl party, or would you rather watch it at home by yourself? Because the other thing is, it's going to determine my outfit, too. Because I'm torn whether to put the Montgomery back on, which is undefeated so far during the postseason, and undefeated all time. Or do I switch it up? At least if I switch it up and I'm home, I can change. If I go to somebody else's house, I'm stuck with that outfit. So that's just my own quirkiness. But are you watching the game by yourself at home, or maybe not by yourself, maybe with your family, but are you watching it at home, or are you going to a Super Bowl party? 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. I'm still up in the air. And again, I just don't want to be that guy that has to tell Aunt Sally, shut up. Shut up. But I've been at parties where that has been the case. But let me know. 267-495-8531. That is the Back to the Future voice and text line. Today, we're going to go back to 1976. And on this day in 1976, the NBA All-Star Game took place at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. It was the second of 3 All-Star games to be played in Philadelphia that year for the country's bicentennial celebration. It was played in front of 17,511 fans. They saw the East beat the West 123-109. Dave Bing of the Washington Bullets was named MVP. He had 16 points, 4 assists, and 3 rebounds. The Sixers had 2 representatives, Doug Collins, who had 12.6 boards, and George McGinnis, who had 10.7 boards. This was the 3rd All-Star game ever played in Philly. NBA All-Star game played in Philly. 1960, 1970, 1976 for the bicentennial, and then the 2002, which was rescheduled from 1999 due to the lockout. No word yet on when the next one is coming to Philly. There were rumors that they were trying to get it for 2026 due to the 250th anniversary of the country's celebration, but I believe that went to LA. So now it's looking like possibly we might have to wait until the new arena opens. But on this day in 1976, the NBA All-Star Game was played in the Spectrum in the Spectrum in Philadelphia in front of 17,000 fans. East beat the West. Dave Bing of the Washington Bullets winning the MVP. Finally, today, we're going to continue our Black History Legacy Makers with Philly Ties Focus. And today we're going to celebrate Charles Tarzan Cooper. He was born in Newark, Delaware, moved to Philly, and played basketball and starred at Central High School. After he graduated, he played in a couple of the little barnstorming pro teams around Philly, the Philadelphia Panthers, the Philadelphia Saints, before going to New York to play for the New York Renaissance. All of these teams were independent due to all of the pro leagues being all white back then. This was like in the 20s and 30s, so all the leagues were white, so they all had to be independent and barnstorm. Very similar to what the Negro leagues did in the early days too, for Major League Baseball. But in 1939, Tarzan Cooper helped lead the New York Reds to the first World Professional Basketball Tournament title, first one ever in the. I guess it was the country. There might have been some teams from Canada, but they called it the World Basketball Tournament. But an all-black team won the very first one. After his time with the New York Reds, he would go and play for the Washington Bears, where he was a coach and a player, lead them to another WPBL title. Tarzan got his name for just being just a beast. And just imagine this being in the 20s and 30s. This is a pretty normal size today. But back then he was 6'4", 215 pounds, and was just a beast on the glass. Part of the Reds' success was due to sharpshooting outside, but Cooper just being able to clean up the glass and get easy putbacks. At one point, they had won 88 straight games. That's just how good they are. Many have called that played against him and have seen others play. Called him the greatest center ever to play the game. That's just how good he was. I'm picturing, from what I read, I'm picturing somebody honestly like a healthy Joel Embiid who can handle the ball, who can shoot, but it just is when it's time to take over, he's able to take over. So Tarzan's legacy, though, in 1977, he became the first African-American ever inducted as an individual into the Naismith Hall of Fame. And he's actually a 2-time Hall of Fame inductee. He was inducted as part of the New York Reds as well. They were a couple years earlier. But Tarzan Cooper is today's Philly sports Black History legacy maker, or I guess Black History legacy maker with Philly ties. It's hard to say. But Charles Tarzan Cooper is today's spotlight, the first African-American to be inducted as an individual into the Naismith Hall of Fame, and one of the greatest to ever do it, any era. Just really was just a great. Everybody seemed to like him too. He was well liked, he was a great player, and his legacy is he trailblazed so we can have the NBA that we have today. But Charles Tarzan Cooper is today's Black History legacy maker with Philly ties. On this day in 1976, the NBA All-Star Game took place in Philadelphia at the Spectrum. The East beat the West 123-109. Dave Bing of the Washington Bullets named MVP. Doug Collins and George McGinnis played for the Sixers. We will have a lot more on our Super Bowl coverage as we kick off Super Bowl week. It's going to be a busy, busy week. Give me the game day. Give me the game day. That's all I need. But let me know, where are you watching the game? You going to a party? You're watching it by yourself? Or are you up in the air in between like me? And again, Aunt Sally, I don't mean to be rude, but shut up. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for February 3rd, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Monday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.